Okay. Good night, everyone. Good evening. I'm going to get going. If that's okay. Just want to make sure everyone seems to be here. Can you hear me okay? Give a little nod. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I will ask everyone, we do have a packed agenda, and it looks like we have a decent amount of people on. I'd ask everyone to remain, unless you're the select board and or people part of the direct conversation, just so that we can keep things going with minimal background noise. But let's get going. The time is now 6:30. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this January 28th, 2025 public meeting of the Select Board shall be conducted remotely via Zoom. The agenda was posted on the town's website, identifies how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. As a preliminary matter, this is the Select Board Vice Chair Chris Gallo. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Selectman Anderson?
Anderson here.
And Selectman Anderson, just so you know, I can't see your handsome face.
Really?
So if that's on purpose or not.
No. Hold on.
I mean, it wouldn't be, there we go.
There we go.
There you go. Now I'm at, thank you.
So being tech savvy, I forgot to hit the video button.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Selectman Anderson, did you say you were present?
Present, please.
Okay. Selectman Harrington.
Harrington here.
And Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Okay, staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Interim Town Manager Mike King.
Present.
Assistant Town Manager Greg Enos.
Present.
Executive Assistant Amanda Vazzapolo.
Present.
And I know we have other MVPs that are attending as well. I believe we have Superintendent Dr. Kierman, who we'll get to, Cindy Thompson, I believe, as amongst many others. So everyone, welcome to tonight's meeting. Before we get going, and we do have a public hearing at 6:35, so we'll jump to that in a minute. But before we get going, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is the first meeting since the passing of our chairman, Selectman Joe Botash. I'm going to try to hold it together during this part of the meeting, but I would be, again, remiss not to say how saddened this board is at the passing of Joe. Joe left an amazing legacy to this board, to the town of Wrentham, in his service of over 15 years. He will be forever remembered as just a great public servant, and someone that I consider a colleague, a friend, and someone that I look up to. So at this time, we have a couple of minutes. If any of the other select board members want to say something before we do a moment of silence, I will open it up to the board quickly. But please be cognizant of the time. I'll start with Selectwoman Rouse.
Sure, just real quickly, that was beautiful, Chris. Someone once said to me that we're not truly gone until someone stops saying our name or remembering. And I think it's safe to say that us, the select board, the residents in this town, the people in this meeting will continue to speak of Joe, his name, and remember all the good that he brought to Wrentham. We surely miss our friend.
Well said. Again, trying to keep it together. We'll go to Selectman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. First of all, Joe is a good man. He was a dedicated public servant for the town of Wrentham. He was, I served on the board for about 15 years, I believe 10 years as chairman. Yep. He loved his family first, but he loved the town of Wrentham second. And one thing I'll say about Joe was that he always had the town's best interest at heart. And, we used to joke. I would call him Mr. Mayor, because you'd see him at a lot of community events, and you'd also see him at different events in town with different organizations. So he was a true public servant. He may be gone, but in my mind, he'll never be missed. And I just wish that Joe was here. But, for Joe, rest in peace, my friend, and we'll see you in the afterlife.
Yep, well said, Selectman. Selectman Harrington.
Sorry. Very well said by all the members of the board. Joe and I were very good friends long before we both moved to Wrentham. And my thoughts go to him and his family.
Okay, thank you for that. With that being said, Selectman Botash would want us to move on and put the town's business press ahead. So although it's with heavy hearts, we're going to continue the meeting. Yeah, thoughts and prayers with his family. So at this time, I would like to, because it is 6:35, I want to go right into our public hearing. And let me try not to mess that up. So I would like a motion, time being 6:30, we have a public hearing that we have to do. It is, I'm pulling up my notes right here, relating to the discussion and vote for vote by mail for the April 7th, 2025 annual town election. And I believe we have Cindy Thompson with us, but before we get there, I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I
I'll
have a
second it.
Okay, motion made by Selectman Anderson, second by Selectwoman Rouse. We'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse,
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Selectman Harrington,
Yeah, Harrington, yes.
Chris Gallo, yes. Motion carries 4-0. Now I'd like to ask if I have a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Selectman, second by Selectwoman Rouse. We'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse,
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Selectman Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 4-0. At this time, I believe the public hearing is open. Correct, Mr. King? Okay, so we have with us our town clerk, our esteemed town clerk, Cindy Thompson. Cindy, are you here? I see you on.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Cindy, would you like to address the board as to what we're doing tonight with this public hearing?
I would absolutely love to, and I can, hang on a second. Yeah, so computer technology is always wonderful when you're in your 60s. Yes, I'm here to talk to the board tonight about vote by mail for the annual town election on April 7th. Previously, the Board of Registrars meet in January of each year to discuss early voting in person for the annual town election. You all have a memo that they vote in January, not to recommend to offer early voting in the town hall for the week or two before the annual town election. So it is up to the Board of Selectmen to address the vote by mail part of it, and they are to vote to either opt out of vote by mail no later than 45 days before the date of the election. So I'm here to recommend, as I have in the past, not to offer vote by mail for the annual town election. Part of the reason being is that we've had, over the last 3 or 4 years after COVID, we've had about an average of a 12% voter turnout for the annual town election. And it's costly. It's $1 a ballot. And we've, the last time we offered it, there were only 71 requested, and only less than half of them were returned. So it's up to the board to discuss. So there's another option for anybody that wanted to vote by mail. It's absentee. You can vote absentee up until, in my office, up until noon, the Thursday prior to the town election. And you can still absentee vote by mail until Monday, March 31st. That's the last day I can get an application to vote by mail. Permanently disabled voters, we have a few of those in town. They get a doctor's note to be permanently disabled to receive an absentee ballot every year. They're sent an application, and if they want to vote by mail for the whole year, then they return the application signed. Polling location is always open from 7 in the morning till 8 at night. And that's all I have. And I promise you, this is the last year that I'll be requesting not to vote by mail.
Thank you, Cindy. And if people don't know what she meant by that, it's because she's retiring and not running again come April. So Cindy, just in front of the public, I just want to thank you for your service to the community over all these years. You've been nothing but spectacular, and we appreciate all the hard work and dedication. So
Thanks, Chris. I will definitely miss it.
And we will miss you. I do want to say a point of order. I just noticed that in my packet, there is a public notice that I think needs to be read into the record.
Public hearing notice, yes, please.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to ask Selectman Harrington to please read this into the record, and then we will continue the public hearing and discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Public notice. Notice is hereby given that the town of Wrentham Select Board will hold a public hearing to consider opting out of vote by mail for the municipal town election scheduled Monday, April 7th, 2024. The Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. This public meeting shall be conducted remotely. Remote participation information will be made available on the Select Board's agenda, which can be found at wrentham.gov Agenda Center. Said hearing will begin at 6:35 p.m. and continue until completion, and will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 25B, A1. Wrentham Select Board.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I would like to open it up to the Select Board members to ask any questions of our Town Clerk, Cindy Thompson. And we'll start with Selectwoman Rouse.
I think Cindy's explanation of what we've done in the past and the cost and the return rate, et cetera, is really all I needed to hear. So no further questions. Thank you.
Great. Selectman
Thank you,
Anderson.
Michelle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So Cindy, I too want to extend my congratulations on your retirement. You've done a tremendous job here for the town in different capacities, and I wish you well, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
I too agree with Selectwoman Rouse. We've done this in the past, and for the rate of return and what it costs, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'd be in favor of opting out.
Thank you. Selectman Harrington.
Yeah, thank you, Co-Chair. So similar to last year, my feeling is that the voter turnout in town is fairly low at 12% typically. And I think we should give the townspeople any opportunity, be it by early voting or by mail, to get their voices heard. So I would vote to opt in.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. King, question for you. Do I hold the vote now and then close the public hearing, or do I close the public hearing and then vote?
You'll close the public hearing and then vote. So you do
Okay.
a roll call.
By roll call, yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
A motion made by Anderson and a second by Selectwoman Rouse. We'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, no.
No, we're closing.
We're closing the public hearing. Do you want to keep?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
So just to clarify, Selectman Harrington.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Chris Gallo is a yes. Motion carries 4-0 to close the public hearing. Now, at this time, Vice Chair will entertain a motion to opt out of the vote by mail for municipal election scheduled for April 7, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it was a motion made by Selectman Anderson. There was a second by Selectwoman Rouse. Do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, no.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 3-1. Okay?
Thank you, board members. Thank you for your time.
Good night,
Thank you,
Cindy.
Cindy.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Have a good
You
night.
too.
Thanks, everybody. Now we're going to get back to the agenda. If we could go back to the top quickly, and we'll go to tab 1, and we'll have our clerk, Selectman Harrington, read the announcements, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So agenda items, announcements for January 28th. Annual town election, Monday, April 7th, 2025. The last day to obtain nomination papers from the town clerk is February 13th. 2025 dog licenses are available in the town clerk's office. Dog license obtained after February 28th will incur a late fee of $50. Residents can now report a pothole via email to potholes@wrentham.gov. Be sure to provide an approximate street address and the nearest cross street to that pothole. Real estate and personal property tax bills are due February 3rd. And just on a side note, I just want to remind that there is the winter parking ban. In the last snowstorm we had, there was quite a few vehicles that were in the way of the plowing. And that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Selectman Harrington. A side note, I wonder who's monitoring the potholes@wrentham.gov email. I'm sure they're going to get some colorful and possibly humorous emails there. Fill us in when we're having a rough meeting to make us laugh a little bit. But thank you for those announcements. At this time, I'm going to go to tab 2. We're going to approve the minutes. Vice Chair, entertain a motion to approve the January 7, 2025 open session meeting minutes.
So moved.
So moved.
I had a motion made by Selectman Anderson, a second by Selectman Harrington. We'll have a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Chris Gallo, yes. Motion carries 4-0. Okay. All right. At this time, we're going to go to tab 3. This is the appointment of Tom DePlacido to the Public Works Building Committee. We had in the past, just to let everyone know how we're at this point, and Mike, please feel free to jump in and correct me. Former town manager Kevin Sweet was on the building committee for the DPW, and dear friend Chairman Joe Botash was also on the building committee with myself and a couple of other people. And I think we might have even had one other vacancy when Chad left as well, if I'm not mistaken. That I don't know if we ever filled. So we're in need of members to fill this pretty important position regarding possible major expenditure that the townspeople will need to eventually vote on, which is a new DPW facility. We put the requests out there to see who would be interested. Tom DePlacido has stepped up and volunteered, or maybe voluntold. We'll get to that in a minute. But I just want to say my personal interactions with Tom DePlacido have been very positive. He's on our Board of Assessors, does a very good job. I know he has intricate knowledge of real estate construction, real estate development, runs a very successful business. And I personally think that Mr. DePlacido would be a major asset for us in this committee as we face very important and difficult, challenging questions and potentially votes for the taxpayers of our community. Before we open it up to the board and hear from Mr. DePlacido, in our packets, there was a letter that I'd like Selectman Harrington to read into the record.
So it's from Tom DePlacido, sent Wednesday, January 22nd to Mike King, Reed Public Works Building Committee. Hi, Mike. Thank you for your patience. I was away last week and got caught up with some other things yesterday. I know the selectmen's meeting was postponed until next week. After our conversation, I would like to state my interest in serving the community on the DPW Building Committee. I have served on multiple boards and committees in town and have experience with land planning and construction. I would appreciate the opportunity to serve the residents of Wrentham and ask you please place my name on the selectmen's agenda as a candidate to be appointed to the DPW Building Committee. Sincerely, Tom DePlacido.
Thank you, Selectman Harrington. At this time, I'm going to ask Tom DePlacido. Mr. DePlacido, welcome to our meeting. I'd like to give you the opportunity to address the board before I open it up to have them make any comments or questions with you.
Good evening, everyone on the board tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to sit before you here tonight. For those who are familiar with me, I have served on Planning Board, Board of Assessors, Conservation Commission, have a pretty broad knowledge of what's required to develop a piece of property, and also in the past have sat on the Public Safety Committee building back 10 years ago, or 15, actually close to 15 years ago, when the fire and police building was developed and planned, moving forward with that. So I do have some experience with this. My schedule is a little tight, but I feel as though this is an important building for the town, and thought it would be good that if I could offer some assistance and be part of the board and work for and with the residents of Wrentham on this. So.
Thank you, Mr. DePlacido. Again, thank you for putting yourself out there. I know you're busy, but this is very important. I think you'd be an asset on the committee. So at this time, I'm going to ask Selectwoman Rouse if she has any questions or comments for Mr. DePlacido.
Tom, thank you for offering your services to this committee. My question was going to be, tell us a little bit about the boards that you served on and the other service that you have done in the town, as well as why you're most qualified. So between your email and your opening introduction, I think you answered that. So no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Selectman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. So I've known Tom for a long time, and I think with his experience and his skill set, I think he'd be an asset on that committee. So I'd give him my blessing.
All right, thank you. Selectman Harrington.
Sorry, excuse me. I agree totally with the other board members. Tom has a vast knowledge of land development, property development. I am familiar with him sitting on other boards with my past on the capital planning and on finance committee, and having interactions with him and other boards. So I think he'd do a great job, and look forward to working with him.
All right, great. At this time, the vice chair would entertain a motion to appoint Tom DePlacido to the Public Works Building Committee for a term effective immediately and expiring June 30th, 2025.
So moved.
I had a motion made by Selectman Anderson and a second by Selectman Harrington. We'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion passes 4-0. Tom, can you please, does he have to get sworn in, Mike? Go see Cindy and get sworn in, correct?
Yes, he does.
Okay, Tom, at your convenience, we'd appreciate you doing that. Welcome aboard, and I look forward to seeing you at the next building committee meeting.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the vote of confidence from each and every selectman, and look forward to serving the citizens of Wrentham. Thank you, and have a good night.
Okay, as we move on down the agenda, next item is, I believe, tab number 5, which is the vote to endorse the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission renewal certification form. Mike King, interim town manager, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
This is an annual form that's approved by the Board of Selectmen, and it communicates to the ABCC any licensees who chose not to renew their license for the upcoming year.
Okay, so if I look through the notes, we have some listed that are not choosing to renew their license. And so essentially all we have to do, if I'm not mistaken, is just make a motion to endorse the control renewal certification, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, at this time, the vice chair would entertain a motion to endorse the 2025 Alcohol Beverage Control Commission renewal certification form and to authorize the use of electronic signatures.
So moved.
Second.
A motion made by Selectman Harrington, a second made by Selectman Anderson. Any further discussion? I should have said that before. Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Yes.
with authority. Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 4-0. Okay. It looks like now we're going to go to tab 6. Oh, this is great. So it's very customary around here for us to do a mid-year kind of update with Dr. Cameron, Dr. Alan Cameron, our superintendent of Wrentham Public Schools. Dr. Cameron, it's great to see you here this evening. Thanks for coming and making some time for the board. We don't want to keep you long, but sticking to tradition, we'd like to have a mid-year update from you. And before we do that, I just want to personally say, a thank you to you, your team, all the amazing teachers and support staff that we have in Wrentham Public Schools. One of the things Joe Botash loved and supported dearly was our schools, and his saying that we should never stop saying is Wrentham is more than just a town, it's a family. And the schools do a big job of making Wrentham the family that it is. So I welcome you. I would just ask you to give us a quick update. I know there's some great stuff going on. There's updates with the school. There's updates, anything you think the board should be aware of. As you know, our residents often expect us to know, a lot of what's going on in the other areas of the town, even though we may not have direct control over the school committee. It's important for us to be aware and to have a great relationship, which I think we do. So welcome, Dr. Cameron. I turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Gallo. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. Excellent. And hello, members Roush, Anderson, and Harrington. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. I also appreciate that touching tribute to Joe at the start. I was talking today with Kevin Martis about one of the events we have is the annual hoedown for students at Roderick School, and Joe was the DJ for that event many, many times, and we were getting sad today thinking about that without him. He certainly had a big impact on all of us, and I still can't believe that he's gone and miss him very much. So that was a great tribute to the start from all of you, so thank you for that. And thank you also for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm excited to update you on what's going on in the district. Things are going great at Delaney and Roderick. We're making progress with our learning, community engagement, and facilities goals. And I'm happy to share some of the highlights, in particular with the things that the select board and the voters supported for the district town meeting. So this year we implemented a new core reading program throughout the district. The program is called My View in kindergarten through grade 5, My Perspectives in grade 6. The program is very highly rated, and we selected it partly because of that, and also because it aligns with the science of reading. So we know that our students are learning the skills that they need so they can be effective readers, writers, and communicators. And thanks to you, that progress is happening. I want to send some appreciation to my colleagues. It's very challenging to adopt a major new program like this, and they've been working very, very hard, and we've made some really exciting progress with that. Also, thanks to you and the voters, we were able to install ballistic film on all of the glass on the exterior doors and windows that someone could use to gain access to the schools. This significantly improves the security of the building, something that is the #1 priority for all of us. And I really appreciate your support for us for getting that initiative completed. And the school building project that's being supported by the Massachusetts School Building Association is in full swing. We hired a owner's project manager, a company called Vertex, to oversee the work. And we hired an architecture firm called TKSP to design options for the project. And over the next few months, TKSP is going to finalize drafts for us of renovation of the building with grades 3 through 4 and 3 through 6 in there, a renovation of the building just for grade 4 through 6. And they'll also give us plans for a new building for grades 4 through 6, a new building for grades 3 through 6. So the community will have lots to see. Once we have those proposals, we'll schedule some community forums so people can come, see the plans, and give some feedback on what they think would be best for the community. And an important point to underscore is that by working with the MSBA, we're having a significant portion of the project paid for by the state. It varies by town, but probably upwards of 45% of the project will be paid for by MSBA. And then finally, every year, students in grades 3 through 6 take a set of state assessments called MCAS, and that's to measure student progress in reading, writing, and science in grade 5. And all the students in the state take it. And last year, 2024, our students at Roderick performed so well that they were among the highest performers in the state and actually received School of Recognition status. Obviously, this is very significant, and it reflects positively on the leadership, the teaching, the students, and the support at Roderick School, but also because of the unique structure in Wrentham, where all of our students go to Delaney School and then they all go to Roderick. It really reflects positively on everyone who's working in both schools. The students learn the skills and the concepts they need starting in preschool, right through Delaney into Roderick. I'm very, very proud of all of them, very thankful for their hard work, and I'm really excited for all the great things that are happening. We're continuing that positive momentum this year, and I'm excited to see what happens as we go through the final months of the year. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
That's fantastic, Mr. Dr. Cameron. I think that's great. As always, very impressed at what what the school's doing, what you're able to accomplish. I always believe, even though my kids don't go to Wrentham Public Schools, we decided that, as you know, personally, our kids, we decided faith-based education was what we wanted to do. But you know that I'm a huge supporter of Wrentham Public Schools and yourself and your staff. I think you do an amazing job. I will say this, though. Ironically, that you're on this meeting tonight, I do have to address one quick thing that was brought to my attention at your last school committee meeting. I guess during a public comment in the beginning of your meeting, I was called out by name for my supporting of a Christian faith-based organization here in Massachusetts. I don't want to harp on this too much, but I do just want to make a quick point before we move on. I want the viewers to listen closely. Everyone should know, and if you don't, you'll know now. Our role on the select board, right? We have no direct influence over policy or over the schools per se. Is that a fair statement, Dr. Cameron?
Yes, that's accurate.
So we approved the budget, but I'm not involved with policy decisions. I know it came up because this said organization may have given advice to someone about a policy that your committee was reviewing. And then somehow my name got dragged into this for being a supporter of said organization. I believe in everyone's constitutional right of free speech, but I also believe in everyone's constitutional right to practice their religion openly and without harassment. Now, anyone that I've ever done business with knows that I do not govern differently based on people's faith, non-faith, any kind of affiliation to any beliefs or organizations. I treat everyone 100% fairly, and I try to do my best for the citizens of this community. So I was kind of taken aback by that comment. And I think it was inappropriate. I think it was reckless. And I think that's going down a very dangerous path, one that I think we're better than here is in this town of Wrentham. So I just wanted to make that statement, as I wasn't there to defend myself at the time. And I think at this time, I'm not asking my board to direct, to directly respond, but feel free if you want. But I will say this to my board, and I would like you to relay the message that I'm about to say back to the school committee and the teachers, the staff, everyone. I will never apologize for my faith. I will never apologize for my beliefs, and I will never apologize for the organizations that I support. However, if someone thinks just because I support an organization, that means that I agree with them on every single issue and every single thing they say, That's ridiculous. But I will never, ever, ever apologize for my personal and my family's beliefs. But like I said before, I will never use those beliefs to govern and treat people differently based on what I believe. And I'm sorry that I had to take time to say it. I thought it was important enough to address. And at this time, I would like the board to focus on the great stuff that you and the schools are doing. And I'll start with Selectwoman Rouse.
Well, first, Vice Chair, I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in bringing up an issue that obviously was troubling to hear. So thank you for that. Dr. Cameron, always so impressed with the Wrentham Public Schools. Wherever I am, there's a parent, there's a child that's always enthusiastic of what's going on. So I'm a big supporter of the Wrentham Public Schools. I did have one question relating to MCAS. Are those disappearing next year after the?
That's a great question. Thank you for raising that. So MCAS is not disappearing, and that's a popular belief, but or I guess confusion around the issue. So MCAS is here, and it's here by state law, but it's also here by federal law. So we still have to provide a state assessment every year to the students who we currently assess. What's going away is using it as what's called a competency determination. Mm-hmm. So in Massachusetts, we were using MCAS as a way to ensure that all students left high school with a baseline of knowledge and skills so they could be successful at the next level. And we've always had that in high schools. But Massachusetts started to use MCAS as that standard. So students had to pass MCAS in order to graduate. That competency determination usage of MCAS has been removed. So we'll still administer MCAS, but it won't be used for a competency determination. And thank you for letting me, I should have mentioned that in my opening speech. So thank you.
No, that's excellent. I wanted that clarification for everyone listening. My second question is, I do go through and read your different announcements and events coming up, and I wanted to bring notice to one that you have coming at the end of February that I thought was spectacular in terms of talking to parents or caregivers regarding stress and smartphones and friendships and depression and suicide, some heavy topics, but really great to see that the school's addressing it and offering that to parents and caregivers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the 26th of February? Because I think it's, again, great information for people to be aware of, or to go check out the website on your announcements.
Yes, that's probably the way to go since I can't access my calendar. So I'm sorry.
But I applaud you for doing, the educating the full child and offering that services to caregivers and parents.
Thank you. Yes, it is. You are exactly right. Select Board Member Roush. It is the Community Resource Fair, 6 to 8:30 p.m. KP Middle School in Norfolk. And that's on, Wednesday, the 26th of February.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for giving that. And actually, if I may, just one more, another thing I should have mentioned in my opening thing. We just had, speaking of unique things of Wrentham, we just had the 53rd annual gym show, a remarkable fifth grade experience. Glenn Gillespie, the facilities director for the town and the district, remembers his gym show. It's something that generations of students have enjoyed, and really commend so many PE teachers over the years and teachers who supported it. It was great to see, and it's still a lot of fun and going strong.
I can't let it go without asking what this year's theme was.
Movies.
All right. Love it.
It was very good. Yeah, they did a great job.
All right. Great job, Selectwoman Rouse. Selectman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. So, Dr. Cameron, it's so good to see you, my friend.
Yes, sir. You too, Chief.
Yeah, I want to thank you, your leadership team, and your staff for all you do for the students in our community. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future to provide a great education that it's already great education. And I know that everyone I talk to, they're very proud and excited. So I look forward to work with you again in the future.
Thank you, Chief. I'm excited too.
Thank you.
Nice job, Selectman Anderson. Okay, Selectman Harrington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for pointing out that issue that was brought before the school committee. Proud of the fact that you bring that up openly, and I support you. Dr. Cameron, I can't express the feelings I have towards, your school system. It's amazing. You do a great job, great work, with the accommodations, and I'm certainly glad to hear that the town funded reading has been implemented, and the safety film. That's paramount to safety to us. Yeah. So thank you for all you do, and keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. I will. Thank you. All these great things wouldn't happen if we didn't have support. I mean, school committee is the board that supervises me, and they're wonderful partners in this, but having the support of the select board, you all have been wonderful for us. And that's why I was excited to come in and share those specific things that you all supported for the district over the years. And of course, having great relationships with Mike King, the interim town manager, and Greg Enos, and everyone who works in the town. It's just a great place to be, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And thanks again for giving me the opportunity to be here.
All right, Dr. Cameron, we will see you soon, my friend. Keep going. All right, great job. Okay, at this point in the agenda, we're going to go to tab number 7, which is the 20 Hancock Street purchase and sale agreement. Before we get to this, I would like to ask interim town manager Mike King just to give the viewing public a quick summary of why we're voting on this tonight.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gallo. At the December 16th town meeting voted to approve the purchase of the 20 Hancock Street parcel for a new water source in West Wrentham. The amount was $1,170,000 to be funded via retained earnings. What we have before us tonight is a purchase and sale agreement with the owner of the property, John Hassenjaeger. He has already executed the purchase and sale agreement that was drafted by our legal counsel. I believe that the board has had the opportunity to review it. It appears, you may see that it looks like a fairly standard purchase and sale agreement. And I would ask tonight that when hopefully the board votes to approve it, that they do so with the use of electronic signatures.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the board members to see if anyone has any further questions. Mr. King, I'll start with Selectwoman Rouse.
No further questions at this time.
Selectman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. No, actually, everything looks good in the packet, and I was glad to see that town council had reviewed it.
Great. Selectman Harrington.
Yes, I agree. I mean, standard purchase and sales. I was glad to see that town attorneys signed off on it, and I was thrilled that the town appropriated the funds, or the authorization to spend the funds at special meeting.
Great. And just to add my 2 cents, I agree with the board. Standard purchase and sale agreement, town council reviewed it, pretty cut and dry. So at this time, the vice chair would entertain a motion to approve the purchase and sale agreement for 20 Hancock Street with the use of electronic signatures.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so there was a motion made by Selectman Anderson and a second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, so at this point in the meeting, we're going to go to tab number 8, which is an update on the MBTA communities. Now, we want to preface this part of the meeting by telling the voting public that there is a lot of information being thrown at us, and we're trying to disseminate it, go through it. We understand, as you all do, that there was a decision made in the Milton case, but contrary to views I've seen on social media that tend to be very erroneous most of the time, there actually was some things that Milton won. Even though they lost the ultimate suit, they won a lot of small victories in making the state kind of go back to the drawing board in certain areas on how we're being told how to comply or not comply. So we thought it would be very beneficial for us as a board and for you listening to have our interim town manager kind of take the big segments of this in chunks, pause, let the board members ask some high-level questions, and then we encourage anyone listening tonight who has additional feedback, additional comments, to email us at S as in Sam, B as in boy, office @wrentham.gov. And at the next meeting, we're going to make time to have a public comment section. Once we've had the opportunity to digest the questions and comments made by the public tonight or over the next week or so, I think it's going to be on our next agenda meeting, Mike, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to have a public comment section because this board continues to strive for transparency. We want to know what our voters are thinking. And, you know, we want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard and there's opportunity to do so. So if that's agreeable to the board members, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mike King and have him start to address some of these buckets of conversation. Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gallo. Yes, there's a lot of ground to cover since the board last met. So I'm gonna kind of do this in sections, and then I'm going to pause for the board to ask any questions before moving on to the next piece. So just to kind of remind the community of the special town meeting results to start. So at special town meeting on December 16th, an article proposing an MBTA communities multifamily overlay district was defeated by a vote of 53 to 542. So that's over 90% against of those in attendance. Wrentham was required at the time to adopt MBTA Communities Act compliant zoning by December 31st or become ineligible for certain state grants. On January 8th, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court released its decision in the Attorney General versus Town of Milton case, which had a direct impact on Wrentham's compliance status. The court findings were as follows. The SJC found that the MBTA community statute itself is constitutional. The Supreme Judicial Court also found that the Attorney General has the authority to bring suit against communities that are not compliant. And the Supreme Judicial Court found that the state did not follow the proper procedure in promulgating its guidelines. Because the Supreme Judicial Court found that the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities guidelines were not properly promulgated, the December 31st, 2024 deadline to comply was invalidated. And the town is now back in compliance with the Act. The Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities now needs to follow the correct procedural requirements in issuing new guidelines. Before I move on to emergency regulations, I'll pause.
Okay. So at this time, I know this is a little weird, and we typically don't run meetings this way, but I thought it was important to take it in chunks like this. So I'll start with Selectwoman Rouse. Do you have any comments or questions from this section?
I think that was pretty clear. I just want to reemphasize, Mike, that the town is in compliance at this time.
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll discuss the special requirements next, correct?
I'm going to move into the emergency regulations.
Okay, perfect. No further questions.
Okay, Selectman Harrington. Yeah, sorry. I'm going to jump around. Selectman Harrington.
No, I have no questions. I read this 2 or 3 times very thoroughly and have read a couple of other articles regarding it. Mike did a great job explaining it on the eye level. Thank you.
Okay, Selectman Anderson.
No questions at this time.
Okay, great. The only thing I'll add before we give it back to Mike is I just want to make sure that as you stated, the viewing public understands that it was a 542 to 53 vote in the negative, voting down MBTA communities. Now, some of the things that I've been hearing is because Milton, quote unquote, lost their suit, we should immediately call a special town meeting and vote this in. That is not what the 542 people who voted this down thought of. The Milton component, if everyone will remember, was one piece of the vote of how the townspeople got to the vote of a no vote. There are other components such as the state auditor's unfunded mandate report or determination and the fiscal impacts analysis, both of which we still have not received. Is that a fair statement, Mr. King?
That is correct.
Okay, so with that being said, I'll turn the meeting back over to you and I'll ask you to go to the next section.
All right. So next I'm going to discuss the emergency regulations. So after the Milton decision, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities filed emergency regulations on January 14th. These regulations are similar to the previous guidelines invalidated by the Milton court decision. The main difference being the need to submit an action plan to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities by February 13th to maintain interim compliance and a date of July 14th, 2025 to come into compliance with the law by adopting a multifamily zoning district. So emergency regulations go into effect immediately and are for 90 days. It is the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities plan to adopt these emergency regulations permanently after going through the proper adoption process established under the Administrative Procedures Act. So I just want to touch upon what the Administrative Procedures Act process entails in terms of requirements. So there needs to be a public hearing with at least 21 days notice. A public comment period is actually currently scheduled to run from January 31st to February 21st. There needs to be submittal of a small business impact statement. The agency must file an estimate of the regulation's fiscal effect, including that on the public and private sector for its first and second year, and a projection over the first 5-year period, or a statement of no fiscal effect has been filed. And lastly, there needs to be a notice to the Local Government Advisory Committee 14 days before giving notice of public hearing or comment period, providing a brief statement describing the proposed action, and importantly, indicating any potential impact on local government, which should include preliminary cost estimates whenever possible. I will note that we have yet to see any submittals from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities concerning fiscal impacts at this point. So that's the overview for emergency regulations. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Selectwoman Rouse.
So let's be clear regarding these emergency regulations. The public hearing goes beyond the 2/13 deadline that we're required to submit an action plan.
That is correct.
We have also not received any cooperation or reach out in which the state is a part of the initial requirements to work with towns regarding being in compliant with this act, right?
Yeah.
No one from the states reached out to us to do some of the business impact or work with us as stated in one of the requirements.
Yeah, no government agency has sought information from us in terms of determining a fiscal impact, although the town has proactively provided that information to the state auditor's office separately.
And then and I know you're going to clarify this in a little bit, but we have discussed this before we brought this to town vote, that we requested the financial impact from the state, the analysis, as well as information if it's an unfunded mandate. This was requested in October. We are now in January and are being asked to submit this plan by February 13th without, let me repeat, right, without receiving that information from the state. Am I clear on that too?
That is correct. So the select board requested the information in October, and per statute, the state auditor's office is division of local mandates is required within 60 days to make a determination. The select board made it timely in the hopes that the information would be provided within that regulatory 60-day period, which would have been before town meeting, to provide timely information to voters. The state auditor's office did not meet that deadline. They referenced that they were going to defer to the Milton court decision. They were waiting on it. We now have a decision in the Milton case, and we have asked the state auditor's office to now provide that determination, both the unfunded mandate question and also the financial effects of the statute.
Okay, great clarification there. Thank you.
Okay.
I've just one more, I'm sorry, Vice Chair Gallo. In doing more research and coming across some information today, they're asking for the town manager to complete this action plan. We do not know legally if that you're able to do that after the town has voted and rejected the MBTA Communities Act on December 16th. So we need to look into that further as well to see if that's legal. You are able to legally submit that action when the town has spoken in the way it did in that meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, I was going to touch upon that in the next steps. There is a concern because as part of the action plan, there's a signed statement from the town manager that compliance will be met for July 14th. And that's out of the town manager's control because it goes to town meeting and they're the ones that decide whether or not a plan gets approved.
I would just like to say this before we move on. If anyone's interested, this information, this article was sent to me by, I think some of us got a similar article, but it was sent to me by a few different residents. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the town of Millbury that I believe it was either via town. I don't know where the information came from, if it was their attorney or an attorney that was giving them advice. But I think it's very important for us to make sure the voters understand that it's that legislative body's determination. And I'll read from the article that the municipal CEO, in this instance would be Mike King as the interim town manager, cannot guarantee the submission of a district compliance application to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities by July 14, 2025, as the decision to adopt or reject zoning amendments to comply with the MBTA Communities Act rests with a simple majority of registered voters at a town meeting or special town meeting, not the municipal CEO. It further goes on to say if Mike does, in fact, sign this document on our behalf, he could be opening himself and us as a board, as a town, and individually for legal action. Mike, is that a fair assessment on the article? That we've already reached out to our legal counsel to get their opinion on this, correct?
So it's a concern, and we are seeking legal counsel's opinion before moving forward.
Okay. So it seems to, and I'm just gonna say this, and then I'll pass it off to Selectman Anderson and Harrington. But it seems to me that the state seems to be using emergency orders to push us towards a date that seems very unrealistic when we don't have any of the information that we need, once again, to make this very important decision. And if we as a board simply cave to the pressure of a few people in town and the governor, we could be doing the community a horrible disservice. Is that a fair statement? Mike, I guess I directed at you through, eventually through our town council, but reading the article, I mean, could a reasonable person believe that could be that could be a result?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to town council about it. As I stated, that there are some concerns with the action plan and submitting that letter.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I want to pass it over to Selectman Harrington.
Yeah, thank you. So in reading the action plan.
Oh yeah, you're right. You are Selectman Harrington. Sorry about that.
So in reading the action plan and having the town manager required to sign off after after the townspeople have said no, that doesn't seem that it would be remotely legitimate. And there's a couple of other. I wish I had made a note of it. I apologize. In the original letter Governor Healy signed off. She says that Wrentham would remain ineligible for the MBTA Communities Catalyst Fund, which was announced. So now she's adding an additional grant that she just came up with and holding it as a caveat to force your hand. So why can't we get these people to come to the table? And my question is, why can't we get these people to come to the table and have discussions with us rather than this unfunded, ridiculous force of power?
I think that's a great question, Selectman Harrington. Mr. King, do you have a response to that before I turn it over to Selectman Anderson?
What I will add is, a good future discussion for the select board is what comments the board would like to submit as part of the public hearing process on it regarding the emergency regulations, and what that would look like.
I think for one, Mr. King, would be when does the goalpost stop moving?
Yeah.
If we let's go back to the beginning for a second. When this MBTA community zoning bylaw was rolled out, it was tied to a very specific group of grants. And if you didn't comply, you were just not going to get those grants, to which Wrentham, we didn't receive many or any of them. I think there was one grant in the foreseeable past that we received for $1 million or something. Now
MassWorks
MassWorks.
Infrastructure Program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, since then, every week it seems like they're changing the goalposts on what compliance look like. And if you don't comply, now it's this grant or that grant or this bucket of grants or that bucket of grants. I said the word extortion at town meeting and I got in trouble for saying that. But tell me what a better word is. It doesn't make sense that they don't give us the information that we need to make a decision as a community. We haven't even talked about the financial impacts on the community, and I know we're going to get to that, right? But it just seems like they're constantly changing the game. They won't sit at the table. They won't give us any guidance, but yet we're told that we have to sign this thing by the 14th of February or else we're not in compliance. It doesn't make sense. And with that being said, Selectman Anderson, do you have any comments or questions?
Well, I've got comments. So first of all, I think you and the other board members have brought up some very great ideas, comments. I think they're interesting. I do have a question. So I know at one point there were like a couple of dozen communities that had opted out as well. And do we know by chance what they're doing?
Mr. Vice Chair, I have some info on that, or if Mike has info on that, we can both answer.
I'll start with Selectwoman Rouse and then Mike King. Please feel free to jump in.
So some information that I've recently received. There are over 60 towns that did not zone yet for this. I know that there is a meeting this week in those towns discussing kind of what their next steps are going to be, and discussing kind of what their action is. I do know at this point that there is a group that's putting together possibly a state ballot question to repeal the MBTA Communities Act. In addition, right now there are 23 bills that the state different legislators have submitted aimed at repealing the MBTA Communities Act. So there is a lot of opposition happening right now due to the amendments and the further uncertainty about this and its future. As Vice Chair Gallo has said, the needle is always moving. So there are other actions taking place by other towns. So that's what I have on my side, Jim.
Okay, before Mike, before you jump in.
Yeah. So I'll just say that, I'm hearing there's concern amongst town managers and administrators in regards to the action plan and submitting that letter, stating that the community will be filing those district compliance plans when they're acutely aware that they cannot do that without the authority of town meeting first voting for it. And there's been so much information in a short time frame. And February 13th is coming up fast that I feel like a lot of communities are still processing all this information. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to my colleagues to find out exactly as you had asked what their plans are for February 13th.
Okay, so Mr. Vice Chair, so I've always been a big believer in strength in numbers. And if we have 60 communities that are still considering not complying, would it be in anyone's benefit if we got like a consortium together and met and discussed, next steps? So we're doing it as a group rather than doing it on individual communities.
100%, Selectman Anderson. I think that's a very good idea. If the board agrees, I think we could direct Mr. King to reach out to all 60 of those communities to the best of his ability to see, what are people doing? Is there an opportunity to share resources, knowledge? Maybe sit in if and when we get the opportunity to have a seat at the table with the governor or, any of the people higher up relating to the MBTA community zoning law. I think that's a very good idea, Selectman Anderson.
And also, I'm just brainstorming here, but, if we could get like one member from each community and maybe have a seat at the table at the State House. Or maybe go and speak to representatives there at the State House. Again, I've been opposed to this from the get-go because it's an unfunded mandate, and the costs are going to be exorbitant to the town, and we're going to force out our senior citizens, and we're going to unable to allow young people that grew up in this town as first-time home buyers not to be able to buy a home because their taxes are going to go through the roof. So I'm just wondering if that's a possibility. I don't know if Mike King belongs to any type of organizations where a bunch of the town managers meet and they can get the ball rolling to try to get these 60 communities all together, so we can come up with a game plan and then maybe perhaps get a meeting at the State House.
Selectman Rouse, you want to say something?
There is a meeting tomorrow night, Jim, there should be members from each one of those towns. It's being led by someone in, I believe, up in the North Shore. So an invitation has gone out to different members in those towns. I happen to receive it. So as soon as I hear what they're talking about, what the plan is, it's an initial get together. Let's talk about what's happening in each town and very similar to what you're saying. So I think that momentum and that sentiment is being felt by all these different towns at this point. So I will report back after attending and talking to the person that's leading that.
Okay.
I would ask Selectwoman Rouse to do that. I would also ask Interim Manager, Town Manager Mike King to reach out to as many of those 60 communities as possible. And be able to figure out if they'd be interested in having a representative from this board go with you potentially to speak to them. So if you could take that as an action item, report back to the board, I think that would be appreciated.
And I think just one last point, like additional towns were added to this. Originally, Dover was not a part of this. Now those small towns that were not a part of the original 177 are now being held responsible for doing this by December 31st of next year. So a representative from Dover reached out to talk about it and seeing how we handled it with our town, informing residents, et cetera. So there are towns that are looking for assistance and working together. And I think that you bring up a great point, Jim, that we have to, there is definitely strength in numbers. And there are more towns that are concerned about this, not ready just to turn over their town to a state that can't provide information or is bullying us into this act.
All right. In the spirit of trying to keep things moving, I think those are great points. I think we have our action items on this section. We should move on to the next.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gallo. So Selectman Harrington touched upon a point with grants and different grants being included as requiring compliance that were outside the statute. And I did want to bring one to the board's attention in the community, and that's the firefighter safety equipment grant program. So this January, the Department of Fire Services updated its grant eligibility requirements to include compliance with the MBTA Communities Law. This was noteworthy, as no public safety grants have been previously identified as being tied to compliance in the Executive Office of Housing Livable Communities guidelines. Wrentham was initially not awarded an fiscal year 2025 firefighter safety grant award, but after advocacy from fire chiefs, including Wrentham Fire Chief Marino, the Healy administration reversed course and awarded Wrentham a $19,000 grant on January 17th. But I do want to point out some language in the award letter, and it stated as follows. Due to the recent Supreme Judicial Court ruling, all communities have additional time to come into compliance with the MBTA Communities Law. So no community is being denied a fire safety grant for not being in compliance at this time. Compliance will be taken into consideration for future grant rounds, as it will be for all discretionary grant programs, end quote. So this appears to indicate that discretionary grants outside those named in the statute and guidelines will have an MBTA Communities Law compliance as eligibility requirements moving forward. Wanted to bring this to the board's attention at this time before moving on to any other section.
Okay. One thing, if I might, the last thing you said there, Mike, was all grants.
That was what was stated in the letter, correct?
Yeah.
So
it's ridiculous.
So Selectman Harrington, will start with you. I believe you made a comment. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I'd like to know where our senator is and where our state rep is in support of the town of Wrentham for this unfunded mandate. When are they going to come to the table and bring our complaint directly to the governor?
I think we could definitely reach out for comment. I will tell you, Selectman Harrington, I have had direct conversations with State Rep Marcus Vaughn about this MBTA zoning, and he is 1,000% supporting Wrentham and our ability to govern our own community and make zoning decisions locally as our home rule charter and our dictates. So I will tell you that I can't speak for the senator, but I'm sure Mike can reach out. I'll ask.
I have spoken to Marcus also, and he has been very supportive of us. But my issue at hand is, when are we going to get a voice at the table from these people?
Sure, I'll let them respond directly to that because I don't want to speak out of school. So I'll go. Selectman Harrington, you're all set. Selectman Anderson, do you have any comments on this section?
All set, Mr. Vice Chair.
Selectwoman Rouse, do you have any comments further additional in this section?
No, I think it's just more clarity that the state is just, willy-nilly changing mind in terms of what happens. I think she felt the pressure from the large firefighter union and the unfairness of tagging this to towns that were not compliant with MBTA, and she buckled. It's just it's very concerning that she's throwing all discretionary grants into this, that she's changing it. It's being changed day to day, and then asking us to make this decision with no set parameters. So no further questions.
Appreciate that. I do find it interesting, though, and a point for the board to keep in consideration that when the firefighters union put the pressure on her, she did reverse course. So it's very interesting to see that when this pressure applied, we could be, like to Selectman Anderson's point, 60 communities applying pressure is much louder than one. So let's move on to the next point, Mr. King.
Yeah. So the next area I wanted to go over was the state auditor request for determination. I know we touched upon this previously during comments on another section, but I'll go over it again because it is important. So this past October, the Select Board requested from the State Auditor's Division of Local Mandates a determination on whether the MBTA Communities Law represented an unfunded mandate as well as a total financial impact determination for a period no less than 3 years. The division had 60 days to respond per statute and did not meet its deadline as it declined at that time to wait in favor of waiting for a decision in the Town of Milton case. Now that the Milton case has been decided, Wrentham is again awaiting a response to its determination requests, and the State Auditor's Office has indicated that it will be making a determination in its words soon. That's the quick update on the State Auditor's request, Mr. Gell.
Okay, that's great. We'll start with Select Woman Rouse. Any comments?
No further questions on that. Thank you.
Selectman Anderson.
I'm all set, Mr. Vice Chair.
Selectman Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you. I'm all good.
I'm all set as well, Mike. Thank you for the clarification and information. And what I believe the last item for discussion is, what is our next steps as a community, right?
All right. So in terms of next steps, so Wrentham is required to submit an action plan to the Executive Office of Housing Livable Communities by February 13th. And this is in order to maintain interim compliance with the MBTA Communities Law. The action plan is an online form where municipalities communicate their preliminary plans for a zoning adoption process. As we touched upon earlier, the town manager, as part of the action plan, is required to sign a statement that necessary actions will be taken to bring zoning to town meeting and to submit a district compliance application to the Executive Office and Housing and Livable Communities by July 14th, 2025, this summer. This is concerning, as the town manager cannot submit a district compliance application unless town meeting approves a zoning district, which is out of the town manager's control. Legal counsel opinion is currently being sought on the subject. Additionally, because the action plan requires information from both the Select Board and Planning Board to complete, it would be beneficial to hold a joint meeting with the Planning Board soon. I would suggest February 11th as a possible date, as that would be after the Planning Board's initial meeting on February 5th, where they will be discussing as a body, and before the action plan submittal deadline of February 13th.
I'll just jump in for a second and say that I think that's a very good idea. I think we need to have a joint meeting with the Planning Board. So I would appreciate it if you reached out to Chairman McKnight to see if we could make that happen on the date that you specified. I believe you said the 11th, correct?
Correct, a Tuesday, the 11th.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Do you have anything else, Mike?
That wraps that section up in my report on the MBTA Communities update.
Okay. Selectwoman Rouse, anything else?
So, Mike, just for clarification, if we do not submit that action plan, we are then not in compliance.
If we do not submit it by February 13th, we are not in compliance. That is correct.
Okay.
And let me ask you this, jumping in here. So if we're not in compliance, the next question that's going to come out of everyone's mouth is, so what grants are we going to lose?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important question. And what we're seeing is, initially when we were having this conversation on December 16th, it was pretty clear which grants were going to be affected by compliance. It was those in the statute itself and in the guidelines. And what we've been finding out, in the firefighter safety equipment grant as an example of this, is the number of grants is being expanded, and the governor has specifically indicated that all discretionary grants could be on the table, not just those that were part of our understanding that were identified previously. So after February 13th, any discretionary grant Wrentham could be ineligible for.
I think it'd be important to start trying to get a rough idea of what that dollar amount would equate to, because the conversation that I have with people all the time is, when I've had residents reach out to me, both staunchly supporting what the board is doing, the positions we're taking, and then obviously there's the other side that says we need to comply immediately. We can't afford to, lose any of these grants. The comment I will make, though, is that our own internal fiscal impact analysis that we did showed a budget deficit. If all the units were built, I'll concede that, of $7 million, let's say. I think that was the number, right? We then had a resident get up at town meeting and propose a different number of children per unit, which was much less than what we were using as the children per unit to come up with our fiscal impact internal number. Using even that number, which we have no basis to believe it's accurate, based on the fact that I believe when we looked into it, it was just taking the total number of housing units divided by the number of kids enrolled in the schools or something like that. I believe that, but it didn't factor in many of the other things that it should have. But even using that number that we believe is very low and not accurate, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, when we ran that number through our modeling, it still showed a negative $3 million deficit
That is
impact.
correct. Yes, $3 million, correct.
So when people I just want to caution people listening to this message and people that might listen to it in the future. We need to be able to prove, someone needs to be able to prove to me minimally that our non-compliance is minimally gonna, our compliance is minimally gonna give us $3+ million in grants every year. Right? Because if not, then we have to look at the numbers. We have to look at how this is going to impact our community. And I'm not sold on the 3 million number.
No, you
Does
can't
that
lose
make
grants.
sense? What I'm trying to say? I might not be saying it eloquently
No,
enough.
you're definitely saying it accurately. I mean, we can't lose grants that we don't have either, right? So, but yes, that's correct, Chris, how you said that.
Okay, I just want to make sure people, because I keep getting these messages like, well, it's the law. We got to do it. We got to do it. I understand that. But if the game can continue to change based on if the parameters can change based on the SJC's ruling, why would we rush to adopt something that's going to cost the taxpayers millions of dollars and potentially provide cuts to service? I mean, let's be real. If we can't balance the budget, people, we're cutting funding to schools, funding to fire, police, DPW. Mike, is that an accurate statement? Like, isn't that how it works? Like, we're not like the federal government where we can just continue to raise the debt ceiling. We have to balance our budget.
Yeah, that's correct. And the only other option would be the vote a tax increase to cover
Right. So to go to the taxpayers and vote an override.
That would be the option.
Okay. That is why this board, and I'm not going to speak for the other board members, but I'll speak for myself. That is why me, one of 4 members, will not be bullied and will not be coerced and will not panic into compliance. We will do what's best for all 11,000 resident taxpayers in our community when we have the appropriate information to make the appropriate decisions for our townspeople. Now, I'm only one of 4, but that is where I sit on this position, on this issue. I'll open it up to the other members to see if anyone wants to make a comment.
I have an additional question. If this goes back to vote by July, we need to get some clarification from information that we've read that it would have to be presented in a completely different manner than what we voted on in December.
And just to clarify, that is that same article that was sent to us that said the law dictates that you can't just resubmit the same article that was submitted within a 2-year period. It has to be substantially different, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Mike,
we need to look into that as well. Listen, I share your sentiment, Vice Chair Gallo. This entire 2024 and the start of this new year, I stand with what I have stated back before. If the state really wanted this to work for all residents, for all towns, They would be providing information to us. Financial impact. Is it unfunded? They would come and discuss with us. What's the development going on in your town? We could share what's going on potentially at Crosby Valve, where we'll have almost 300 units. There has been no collaboration. There has been this bullying tactic and this fear and this panic mode to try to get towns to comply. I will stand by and stand up and do what is right for our town and our residents. They spoke on December 16th, and I will stand by that until we get some clear answers from the state. So I also share the same sentiment as Vice Chair Gallo.
Okay. Selectman Anderson, any comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I concur with both what Michelle and yourself had said, and I said, let the fight begin.
Okay. Selectman Harrington.
You've all said it so eloquently. I don't know what else I could add. If our leaders in state government would come to the table, there's no one on the board or in the town that is opposed to having additional housing. If we can afford it, if the infrastructure is there, but this dense, unfunded, jamming it down over our throats, we just can't, it's just not possible. And we had discussed prior to with Kevin, the amount of money in grants that we had received previously. And it didn't even come anywhere near the offset of the cost that if we do this.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you. At this time,
Vice Chair Gallo, can I just make one more comment? I'm so sorry. I'll be quick, I promise. Listen, I just wanted to address, social media is spectacular. It's great to share information, but I do want to ask those that are on social media, I'm not on Facebook, but I just hear from other individuals. If you're going to talk about an issue that's this important to our town and to all residents, I ask that correct information is shared, that you come to these meetings, that you reach out to the select board. We all want what is best for this town. Let's not be divided and be malicious and share misinformation on social media. Let us come together, work together, and make the best decisions for our town. So I just wanted to state that, since I know that this is a hot topic on Facebook and there is a lot of information being shared and a lot of opinions. And I just feel that I just want to make a little reminder to everyone in town.
Sounds good. I second the sentiment. That's a great note. Often the loudest voices are the ones that are most inaccurate. So I caution people. Okay, Mike, at this time, let's turn it over to the interim town manager report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gallo. So I do have several items that I wanted to touch upon and provide updates to the community. So the first is that the town's home rule petition to amend titles in the town charter was signed into law by the governor on January 9th. This became Chapter 391 of the Acts of 2024. The name changes were town administrator to town manager, superintendent of public works to director of public works, and town planner to director of planning and economic development. Also on the legislative front, letters were sent to reaffirm the fire department's exemption from civil service. In 2023, town meeting unanimously passed a home rule petition to exempt all fire positions below chief from civil service. The economic development bill passed by the legislature in November allowed communities with pending civil service legislation to exempt their departments by sending letters to certain state agencies. Wrentham has pursued this option with a civil service exemption to take effect on March 1st. Concerning the April 7th, 2025 town election, Cindy Thompson, the town clerk, touched upon this briefly, but I just want to clarify that the Board of Registrars met earlier this month and voted unanimously to not hold early voting for the town election. Early voting for local elections requires municipalities to opt in. The process is for the Board of Registrars to first recommend, and if they do, Then the select board would vote on whether to authorize early voting. Since the Board of Registrars did not recommend it, the select board is not taking a vote on whether to authorize early voting. Also, as of noon today, no one has come forward to pull nomination papers for the following elected positions: Board of Assessors, Constable, actually 2 constable positions, and the Wrentham Housing Authority Board. I'd also like to provide an update that the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities approved Wrentham's community electricity aggregation plan on January 17th. This was ahead of schedule, as the Department of Public Utilities approval was not expected until early February. We will now be working with Wrentham's consultant Good Energy on the bidding and outreach process to get this program into effect for the summer. And lastly, just a quick budget update. The governor has released her House 1 budget for FY26. We are reviewing the local aid data, but it looks positive initially. And departmental budget submittals are due Monday, February 3rd. And that wraps up my interim town manager report, Vice Chair Gallo.
Okay. Does anyone have any additional questions for our interim town manager, King?
No.
No further questions.
No. And Selectman Anderson, do you have any further questions?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, at this time, and sticking with tradition, I'd like to turn the floor over to Selectman Anderson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So in honor of our esteemed chairman, Joe Botash, may he rest in peace, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Selectwoman Rouse. We'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rose, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Gallo's a yes. We love you and miss you, Mr. Chair, and we hope you're looking down on us this evening. God bless everyone. Thank you for a great meeting, and thank you, public, for being so involved in your town and loving our community so much. Have a great night.
Absolutely. Thank you.